Hello, Pastor Low Black. Hello, everyone. I apologize. I had to get some water before I start this. So I just want to welcome all of you. I just want to welcome all of you to yet another live presentation. I call this the Empowerment Hour. And I know it's not an easy time for everybody to join us tonight because it's a big night. I voted, so I hope you voted as well. So as we're waiting for the results, I had already scheduled this. I'm a woman of my word, and I wanted to make sure that I present, what I promised. What I wanted us to talk about tonight is relationship. Hi, Pastor. Relationships and, respect. And I'm so glad that I do have pastors here with me, because then some of this topic, it's, when you talk about relationships, a lot of people, of course, want to make sure that, it is biblical when we're talking about relationships. So I have to say it up front. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a minister. So I fall short of making sure that, I talk to you about relationships according to the Bible. But what I am is I'm a professional that has been working with couples and young children for 20 years as a psychotherapist. The reason why I'm talking about couples instead of talking about parenting or talking about teenagers is because I believe that if we can fix the relationships of the adults in general, then we can better guide those young children that we are raising or the teenagers that we are raising after adults get themselves together and love each other and respect each other. It is about marriage because there's a high rise of marriage problems that are going on, today. I, for one, I'm in private practice. I am in Orlando, Florida. And I know my practice is 90% couples that are coming in asking for help with their relationship. So to all the couples that have sought counseling, whether through my office or any other office, I applaud you. And I really, really applaud you because it takes courage and it takes a lot for any two people that can say, you know what, we've done the best that we can, but let's seek help from somebody else who's neutral, who can help us mend this relationship or get together with the relationship. So it's really commendable. Here's what prompted me to do this tonight. This morning I wake up and I see a message from one of my friends, Mike Tashaya, who's in London, right? He posts a post. I'm sure most of you have seen it. But if you haven't, let me just read it to you what he had on the post today. He had this post that says, never belittle your man. Never talk down to him. Never ignore him. Never let him feel replaceable. This is for those people that are in relationships. Never play down your need for him and never cause him to feel embarrassed. We're talking about men, and this is to the women out there, or partners, because now it's not about men and women or partners. Never manipulate him, never boss him, never laugh at his mistakes or faults, never put any person before him, and never be inconsiderate of his feelings, never tell his personal business. This book that this was taken from is titled Man Leads, Woman Follows. So which tells me that one, it was written in 1945. I don't know why I said 1945, but I know my beautiful mother was born in 1945. Maybe that's why I say that. But it was written back in the days. And because then I don't see that working today. So my question to you all that are watching, if you have a minute to make some comments, I would appreciate it. Do you think this still stands in relationships today, where women are supposed to be this submissive to the point where you have to watch your P's and Q's, you have to ignore everything that is going on in the relationship if you're not feeling respected? You have to wake up in the morning, put the breakfast on the table, lunch, dinner, take care of the children. I mean, just like it was when this book was written. It probably was in the 40s, 50s that this book was written. Is it something that can still work in today's marriage? Is it something that you think can still work in your relationships? That's the question that we have today. I'm not taking sides. I'm not saying women should, be submissive and do everything that, men are. I'm talking about respecting each other as human beings. Because what I'm seeing is there's a lack of respect on both ends. I grew up, I'm 53 years old, so of course, I'm one of those people that probably, grew up in the era where you were taught, to honor and respect your husband. And the husbands are also taught to honor and respect their wives. So it was never a one-way thing where it's just the husband, the wife that's supposed to honor their wife. The wife that's supposed to honor their husband, but it was a two-way street. Miss Jane, I hope I'm saying it right. You say, I didn't hear submissive, I heard empowering your man in order to have a better man in your relationship. In order to have a better man, empowering your man. That's interesting. Because then when you're talking about empowering your man, by the time that you get married, I'm assuming that, he is a grown man that, has already values that he brings to this relationship. And most of the time, I think with some of the couples that I see, their problem is the wives are trying to control them, as they say, because that's some of the words that they say, or to treat them as if they need so much guidance and help being babied, is what they say. So where is the line between the wife taking care of their husband and the wife babying the husband? Where do we draw the line with Pastor Paula Loblack said women should only submit to love, not domination and control. I agree with that, Pastor. Because here's the thing. There was another lady that went off, earlier on, and she was right, because then she's also venting and saying it should not always be one way. It should be, both ways. The problem with, what's going on today is a lot of people are not even talking about the problems that they are having in the homes. By the time that sometimes they seek help from the pastors, from the counselors, guess what? They've been sleeping in different bedrooms for 5, 10, 15 years or 8 years. They've been sleeping separately. They also have not even been talking for weeks and months. That means there were problems that were going on for all those days. And it's not healthy for you to go outside the door and pretend as if everything is going okay, and yet you guys are not even talking, and the relationship is not working, but you've been living together. Because what happens is we also have problems with people getting depressed, getting anxious, and just literally depression coming from being unhappy in a marriage and not knowing how to talk to your partner or how to resolve things. And this is happening for men and women. It's not just the women, but it's happening for both men and women. So the question that I'm coming to you as well is, I know with some cultures, there used to be a term that is used in Zimbabwe. Let me say it in Shona, chakafugidza dzimba matenga, which means whatever happens in the house stays in the house, which prevents people from coming out and talking about their problems or talking to anybody about their problems. So, and I know this is probably not even the forum for you to respond, because here's the problem too. If you respond to whatever is going on here and you have something that is going on at home, guess what? You've already aired some of those problems that are going on with you, and that probably will not even work with the partner. So that's what we are fighting against, people being quiet to protect, these marriages, to protect their own personalities and their spouses, or protecting themselves. And I agree with you, Pastor, because then, you say it should be reciprocal for both parties, to be able to expect love and to love one another in a relationship, rather than just making it a one-way track. But the question that was there was, does it matter if a wife is not, respectful of her husband? Should that be a cause for divorce? Respect, because I'm not getting respect. Either way, for the husband or the wife. Should that be a cause for going to the courts and saying, you know what, I don't want, to be with this wife because they're not being respectful to me? Is that a cause for a wife to step outside and, be unfaithful because they're not being respected in the home? And the other question is, what is respect? Because then that definition also varies from one person to another. What is it, that you call respect? If I were to ask you to say, if your partner was to respect you, what are you expecting from them? What would you say? Because the other problem that's there is people are not able to communicate what their needs are. People are not able to ask for what it is that they need. So that's another problem that I think, relationships face in the homes. Mr. Marius, I know you asked me to talk about same-sex marriage. I'll see what I can do, but what I wanted to do today was to talk about relationships and respect, and what that means and what that looks like in a relationship. So the other thing is, by the time that you commit and submit to say, I'm going to get married to you, I do. This is the reason why people, I think, were, being asked to date for a while so that you can get to know each other. Because what happens is, if you don't take the time to get to know each other and then you get married, you will start seeing things in your partner that you might not agree with. And then at that point, you're starting to get to know each other. So that's why I say to people, once you say I do, it's a commitment to say I will be learning to love you and to respect you for the rest of my life, because I don't know much about you. Even if you do date, you will never have enough time to get to know the other person enough to commit yourself and say, you know what, this is it. I'm going to stay and I know you well enough. Because I don't think that anybody can know, Richard, I see you. I don't think anybody can know somebody well enough to say, I know everything about my wife, or I know everything about my husband, without having lived with them and stayed with them probably for years and years. Here's another point that I probably wanted to point out tonight as well. I'm not saying that it's right for men to have affairs and go out and have a mistress. But I think for women to step out and say, because my man has been unfaithful, I too can do it, because then, you know what, I can do exactly what he can do. For years, I've been, probably speaking at conferences for women. And one of the things that I have emphasized is, which some people probably will not agree with me, and I respect that. But men are not ready or are not taught to deal with a wife that is unfaithful. So what happens is, if you decide to say, you know what, it's 50-50 in this relationship, I'm stepping out because you're stepping out, guess what would happen? You are putting your life at risk. And unfortunately, we actually have lost women that have lost their lives because they decided to go the other route, where they say, you know what, I can do the same thing that you're doing. What is the right way of responding to a husband that is being unfaithful, a partner that is being unfaithful, without you having to put your life at risk as a woman? Because as women, if you do that, to step out and start having an affair whilst you're still married or dating someone, then you are putting your life at risk. But how can you deal with that situation without stepping out? I'm asked who's supposed to teach them. I guess, who's supposed to teach the men? Really, I'm sure that's what you're asking. Who's supposed to teach them? This is the reason why I want to do this. Because then all of you that are watching now are the very same parents that are raising the young men and women that will be adults just like you and I tomorrow. They're going to be getting married, they're going to be living with someone, and they're going to be parenting their children as well. But they learn from us. And our husbands' parents and our wives' parents, they were the ones that were responsible for teaching, us as adults. But then guess what? I also believe that even if you are taught what to do, you always practice what you see. Because it's interesting that the couples that are coming in now, when we do take a look back at what is going on in their relationships, they talk about how it was when they were growing up, and they talk about how their parents were in that relationship. Guess what? They are repeating the very same things that they lived as little children, just peeking in and looking through the door when they hear the arguments, looking, out when they see their parents fighting, mom coming in drunk, dad coming in drunk, and then, disrespecting each other. Those are the very same things that they are now doing in their relationships. They're drinking, they're coming home drunk. They're also, the wives are saying, well, you know what? Now that I think about it, I never thought about it. My mom never respected my dad. My mother was always talking down on my father. My mother was always doing such and such, whatever they saw. So when we're asking the question, who teaches our men or who teaches our women, I think even if you're taught, you are still an adult that is responsible for your own actions. I still think we all have 100% responsibility of our actions and how we react in all these relationships, so that it's never about what I learned or what I'm supposed to know, but who am I when I meet this man that I'm marrying and I commit myself to this relationship. I'm committing to saying I'm bringing me, not with everything that I learned or didn't learn, but I'm coming to love you and give you what I have, but also to learn how to love and be with the other person with you. I'm choosing you as my partner, and so is the other person choosing you as the partner. So we are talking today, if you just joined us, we're talking today about relationships. And there was this post that, I just went over. There was also a video that's there that I posted earlier on. And this video was about a lady who was giving a speech at a wedding. And what she was trying to say, just to summarize for those of you that are not from Zimbabwe, because it's said in Shona, she was talking to women and men and couples that were there and said, listen, here's the thing that everybody has to know, especially the women. You have to honor your husbands and respect them. And what else did she say? She was talking about how women mostly now respect pastors more than they respect their husbands. And she was saying the Bible says, for you to honor your husband first, your very own husband, not to go and honor somebody else's husband. And with that, that's when somebody gave me Ephesians 5 verse 22 to 33. Pastor Paula, next time I do this, I need you on this live with me so that you can, talk about what the Bible says. Because then it says, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. And that's what that woman was saying. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. And then it also says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy. That part there is what, there's a contract, right? When you are in a relationship. And I think when you decide to have a mistress or somebody outside of that relationship that you have, that is the breach of that contract that you have put, that you honor your wife and love them like the church, or how Christ loved you. So with that, we have to also understand that the emotions are real. The emotions are real. And people react to how hurt they are. So when you see a wife or a husband that is so upset about not being respected, that falls into how you will, parent your children, how you will function at work, how you will function in life, because of that discord and the disagreements that is happening, in the relationship. So what is this respect that we're talking about? It depends on, where your husband is from or your boyfriend is from, because I'll tell you something. I always, I'm a realist. That's one thing that I pride myself with. But if you are marrying someone who's from Africa or from a traditional family that was taught or saw how wives are supposed to respect their husbands, they talk to them in a certain way, they line up their clothing and cook and clean and take care of them, they're also expecting the same thing when they meet you, regardless of where you're from and not from their culture. But they have a certain culture and expectation of what a wife is to do. And that's where the problem is coming. Because then I know we're saying, well, this is a different generation and we're now in a different time. So then, the thing about it is, hello, everyone. The thing about it is you cannot change that expectation with a marriage certificate. That's not going to change it. These are things that you have to ask. What are your expectations in this marriage? And the husband also asks the wife, what are your expectations in this marriage? Because you just don't go for it, according to how it was for your parents. This is the two of you, and that commitment has to be between the two of you, and the agreement has to be between the two of you. Miss Riri says, I have noticed some men do not want to be the head, but still want respect. What's your take? See, and that's something that I've noticed, because we are now, abroad. In the United States, the UK, South Africa, wherever we're spread out, people are spread out in different places, which is not home. It is so difficult to adjust and to make sure that, especially the men in the countries that we live in, for them to be able to get the jobs that they used to get, at home, if they're not qualified to get those jobs, to be able to be the head of the family. So what happens is the wives or the women are the ones that are making more money and getting, the better jobs to be providing financially. I still say, even if you are the one that is the breadwinner, you're still not the head of the family. He is still the head of the family. Because then the head of the family wasn't described by how much money the man is bringing to the house. No, it was described by he is the man. So because he is the man, that denotes him as the head of the house, not how much he's bringing home or how much he gets paid. So the problem that has happened is because the women are making more money, some women have taken it to, well, because I'm bringing the more money, I need more respect because now you're not the one that's working. So that has been the problem there, because then bringing the money or how much money is bringing, it does not make him the head of the household. What makes him the head of the household is that he is the man. That's my take on it. And you know what? As I said, I'm sharing with you my professional and personal opinions, and some people might differ. One thing that you have to understand is each relationship, no matter what our cultures are, what our beliefs are, no matter what the preachers are preaching on the pulpit, each relationship for each person and individual is going to be different. So do not treat each other because the pastor says this and that, or the Bible says this and that. You have to allow each other and talk about what it is that you want and what it is that you expect in this union that you have, whether you're dating or you're married, rather than take it as a general expectation that because my culture expects you, the wife, to do this, or you, the husband, to do this. That's what also breaks us apart, because it is general, but at the same time, we are all individuals, and what works for me in my house might not work for you in your house. What works for the next door neighbors might not work for you, and they don't show you everything. You don't always see everything when you see couples. So believe me, because then I'm honored and blessed to be one of those professionals that sit in the room where they come in now and they air everything and tell you exactly what's going on. And you can tell that people are struggling because they want to be understood. Everybody wants to be understood. Everybody wants to be seen, and everybody wants to be loved. So that's the thing with all these things that are being said that I posted, that when we say, women, you have to, and you have to do this, the men also have to do the same thing, because we are all looking for love. We are all looking for that mutual respect. We are all looking to build these homes that when people are happy, and the couples are happy, and the parents are happy, children thrive and they become happy. Because what they learn is not what you're saying. What they are learning is what they see on a day-to-day basis. Are mom and dad, loving each other? Are they respecting each other? Do they talk to each other in a way that is respectful? Do they treat each other in a respectful way? Talking about children. And some of you, you can call me at any time. So somebody just said, Doc, can I call you? So then, yes, Miss Sarah Moore agreed with me that you have to customize your relationship. You really, truly have to, because they're all different. And that's why I think, I love, those places where we can have multiple couples and we can sit there, so that when we talk, you can hear other couples and how they're doing, and you can tell that it's never an easy journey for you to be able to love someone unconditionally and provide for them unconditionally, or love them the same way that you would want to be loved, because that's what it takes. If you want to be loved, then open your heart to love, the person that you're with the same way and respect them the same way. So what happens when there's infidelity? Because this is what breaks everything apart, that infidelity. And just like everything else, I think you can tell when your relationship is breaking apart. For most couples, you can tell when things are not working out. But the longer that you keep it, where you're not talking, everybody's resentful, and you're dissatisfied with your relationship, the longer that you keep it, the more difficult that it will be for you to piece it together. And the more difficult that it is for someone to come back and recommit, themselves, even if they're coming home at night, they're separated already in their mind to say, you know what, I don't want to be here, but I want to be here for the children. Do not stay for the children. Your children are the very same ones that walk into my office and say, you know what I really want? My parents should not be together. I don't know why they are together. So do not stay for the children. Because then, it is wrong for parents to say, I stayed for the children. It becomes a burden for the children to say, you know what, I guess my parents stayed, for me. And for most parents, some parents, not most parents, but for some parents, it actually will be taken out on these children that, boy, there's nothing that they can do, right? Because look, I'm here for you. I'm just staying here for you. Your mother doesn't take care of me, or your father doesn't take care of me, so I'm here for you. And it becomes too much for any child to, take that burden of having been the reason why you're staying. Hi, Bob. You say, and they learn from their parents. Parents are the ultimate models for how to live life. You're very right, my friend. They look at everything, and we're talking about children, that they look at everything that their parents are doing. So when I get parents that say, you know what, I'm having a hard time with my teenagers, my very thing is I want to take a peek at what's going on in your house before I can take a look at what's going on with your teenager. Because most of the time what happens with the teenagers is a reflection of what's going on in the house. And that's the reason why we are talking about respect. A lot of men, in fact, it was funny because then I had, I am single. So I had one guy that, that asked me out, and I said to him, well, you look like you got a ring. And he says, listen, not everybody that has a ring is happy at home. And it doesn't mean that, they cannot go out and find happiness because I'm not happy at home. I'm sure if there are single women that are watching, and I say, raise your hands if you've heard that, a lot of you will have said, you know what? Yep, I heard that. A married man saying, I'm not happy at home, so this ring doesn't mean anything because I'm not happy at home. I find that alone being a big problem, that somebody would walk around with a ring and still have the courage to ask somebody out and say, you know what, I'm not respecting the fact that I am committed to someone. I'm not respecting the fact that I am not happy with her and I'm not talking to her, but I would rather spend my time with somebody else rather than talk to this individual and try to mend, the relationship that we have. So the other question is, the vows that people are taking, do people really, really understand those vows? Because then when the days that, were written where women were asked to never belittle their men, to don't talk down to them, and to, not boss them around. Those days, guess what used to happen? The men were working full-time and providing the funds and taking care of the homes, and the women were at home taking care of the children, taking care of the home. So as a result, it was easy to respect the husband that's, the head of the household, as for providing, for the home. Today, however, the problem is women are also working. They're working 40, 50, 80 hours a week, and their husband is also working, same time. So when they come home now, it is now the husband sits there and watches his TV, puts his feet up and says, honey, what's for dinner tonight? And she's looking at him and saying, what do you mean, what's for dinner tonight? I just came in as well. I was working. I am tired. You think he would, also help us with the dinner tonight? And some men are not comfortable doing that. And I applaud the men that have taken, to themselves to start helping out, because it's not easy, for someone to work full time and then come home and start to prepare for food and do everything that was expected when women were not working. Again, it's a matter of understanding each other and talking to each other about it, but not, expectations where it doesn't matter. I don't care that you've been working, as long as, I'm here, you need to be my wife. And, when you come home, something like that will, of course, cause a lot of disagreements. And year after year of that wife going through, because sometimes they'll just do that and provide for you and cater to you until such time that, you know what, they get exhausted, they get tired. And most of the time, by that time, it's too late. And if you're not a man that is willing to say, you know, the times have changed, and now I can compromise with my partner, I can talk to my wife or to, you know, to my husband and talk about some of the changes that we can make, because it's about finding middle ground, finding what works for the two of you, because that's what it's all about. Not that we need to keep tradition. That's my take on it. Because if we were to keep tradition, then we all should be back in our home countries and staying in there. And then, of course, we have to respect that tradition. But guess where we are? We are all displaced around the world. And as we are displaced, that means our lives have changed. That means the way that we, have these families have changed as well, because of the different cultures that, where we live in, and also the different times. What do you think? Should we keep them traditional, or should we change with the times? Because everything else is changing. Why can't we change the way that, we treat each other in the relationships? Why can't we change the way that we look at each other and respect each other as individuals, rather than, taking each other for granted and saying, you know what, I'm, your husband. Well, in the African tradition, which is different from, other people, in my tradition, they pay dowry. So usually once that dowry is paid, it's almost like, your husband owns you because he's paid the dowry. And that's sort of a better way of saying that. But what it means is not you're owned. This is my take. I think after the dowry is paid and, families get to meet each other, it's a commitment. That dowry is just, a form of respect, which was, done back in the days. But I think it is a beginning of a union that, you know what, for the two families, we are going to get to know each other, rather than the husband saying, because I paid dowry, now you're mine and you have to do A, B, and C, and D, because I paid dowry. Well, in this day and age, how much did you pay? $25,000? I'll give you $25,000. And, there you go. Now let's get to know each other and let's have this relationship without the dowry talk in there. Because then that's what it is. You're marrying women that can make that much money to give you back that money. So when I hear, people saying, well, I paid this much money, so, I need my shirts ironed, I need this. No, it's not about that. This is about the commitment. That dowry was to respect my parents and the tradition that we have. So it's got nothing to do with the two of us connecting and communicating to make sure that we thrive with this love and we take it, further, hopefully. I'm waiting. What do you guys think? Because then, like I said, this is just my opinion, but what do you guys think about, love and respect in today's age? Because the same respect that we're expecting, from the adults in the relationship is the same respect that parents are expecting from their children. So if there's no respect between mom and dad, how then do we expect the children to respect the parents? Or to respect, the outside, the schools and everywhere? How then do we expect them to respect, other adults if in the home there's no respect between the two parents? Here's another, let me just share with you, because a lot of couples, I think, take it for granted, because here's what happens. You get married, you have children, right? And what happens is when you have children, most of the time they will take your time from each other as a couple. And what happens is you forget to take care of each other as the couple because now you're focused on taking care of the children. Mel Robbins wrote this. She said, if you put your spouse first, your marriage will last for a lifetime. If you want your marriage to last for a lifetime, give it the attention and effort that it deserves. Your children will live with you for at least 2 decades, 20 years. So then putting your marriage on cruise control for those 20 years whilst you focus on your kids is the biggest mistake that you can make. Because what happens is once they leave the house, you have to face each other. In fact, she says when you focus on your kids, it's like falling asleep on a steering wheel. Because then you're driving, but you're sleeping because you're focusing just on the kids and you're forgetting to focus on each other. Because when they leave, like I say, it's going to be some show. You will not know what to do with each other. You have to start to get to know each other again. That's why a lot of couples also have problems once their kids are gone off to college or they're leaving the house. They start to have problems. You start to notice that you're having problems. The problem is there's no longer the children that are in between to focus on. You're now having to focus on each other. That's the problem, and that's why you start to notice that, we're having these problems. So I wouldn't, I don't want to be amiss to let this moment go without talking about some of the things that you might be able to do in order to make sure that your relationship focuses on loving each other and respecting each other, because that's what it's all about. It's about love. And when you're looking for love, but and you want to be married, for those of you that are single, it's something else, because then you have all these expectations of what it's going to look like and what is going to happen, and then you get into the home, you forget that you have a real individual that you have to deal with, to take care of, as well as take care of yourself. Which means whatever it is that you expect, if you're expecting love, if you're expecting to be respected, if you're expecting, for the person to buy you things or to work this much, then expect the same of yourself. Because guess what? You're two individuals that are looking for the very same things. That's why as you enjoy each other's company and you enjoy being in this life as one, because what happens is two people get together and then they still want to live as if you're two separate individuals. That's a big problem. If you get into it, and remember that as you get into it, you're now going to work as we. It's a we thing. We're working as one. The journey begins to become a little easier because you begin to respect each other. And respect. I'm not one to condone that people should stay in a relationship if they knowingly know that their spouse is with somebody else or has another person that they're in love with. Not want to condone that. Again, it's an individual decision that you have to do. But for those of you that do that, what happens is if you have a spouse that knowingly knows that you are stepping out and being with other people, it's very, very hard to love a person that you know is not in love with you. It's very hard to love a person that you know is not fully there for you or supportive of you or respective, of that relationship that you have. It's very difficult. And it's just a human thing. That feelings are involved, hurt and pain is involved, so it's really difficult to expect that person to be there for you and to love you just as much and respect you when you are not fully committed to them. So let's put that out straight. But again, it's something that the two of you have to look into. If you haven't being able to sit down with a counselor, a therapist like myself, to help the two of you, resolve any conflict that you might be having, discord that you might be having, I urge you to try it. Because I think what happened is a lot of people have, heard about, counseling and therapy, and many especially are very afraid and say, you know what, I don't want to go in there because then of course I'm going to be told that I'm the one that's wrong. Especially if you're a man that has, had his faults and maybe had a girlfriend or, done something, then of course you're going to think, well, I guess I deserve to be disrespected because I stepped out. I don't think it's that clear cut. There's always some things that you can talk about, especially, you see, for me, and I'll speak for me, if I see a couple coming in, the two of them coming in, that shows to me that there's commitment, to the relationship, that even if it's the husband or the wife that has, been out, but there's a commitment that they want to work things out. So don't shy away from going and sitting with a professional and talking to a professional, because there's always something that you can gain from that in order for the two of you to come back together and either stay together or separate in a mutual and respectful way. Because then I believe that when you come to counseling, to me, I'm thinking we're working things out. So my first intention is to work things out. However, if the two of you decide that it's not something that you want to work out, my goal is to make sure that you do it with a mutual respect, that you respect each other's, time, and, that you've spent together, and the moments that you spend together, that you can respect that. That way each of you can, live their separate lives. So I just jotted, some tips for healthy relationships, that I wanted to share with you, in this as well. What you want to do is keep the expectations of your relationship realistic. Be for real. Like the kids will tell you, come on now, be for real. No one can be everything to anyone. So you can't get 100% love and have a person that never gets angry, that never gets, mad at you or say things that they're not supposed to say. It's unrealistic. So be realistic. Know that you're living with a human being that also, has their faults, both men and women, and allow each other to have those faults, to talk about it, but to accept them, as faults. Communication is key. So, talk to each other. It's never good for you to call a friend and talk to a friend about what's going on in your home without talking to the person that you live with. It's never okay. Even if you come to counseling and you go into counseling and you talk to the therapist about it, what we urge you to do is to find ways that you can communicate with the person that you're with so that you can work things out. So it's never okay for you to go to a friend, to go to your children, to go to anybody and talk to them about what's happening in your bedroom without talking to the person that you're sleeping with in that room. It doesn't resolve anything. So communication is essential in every relationship. Be flexible. You can't say I'm in love with this person, but then it has to be this way and no other way of being in this relationship. You ought to have that flexibility so that, you allow the other person to love you the way that they can, and also allow yourself to be loved by that person the best way that they can love you. We all come with baggage. Like, my little sister Nikki always says, we all have issues. We all have issues. So with that said, allow each other to be able to mold yourselves into the individuals that you are. You're not your mother, you're not your father, you're not your sister. I'm Stem, you're Bill, you're Bob, whoever your husband is or your partner is. Allow each other to be individuals that are independent, even if you are in the relationship. You cannot be defined by that relationship to say, you make me happy or you make me miserable. And nobody can make you happy, neither can they make you miserable without you being miserable and happy yourself. So you have to find that happiness that you can bring into the relationship, so that it's not too much for the other person to try and find means and ways to make you happy when you're not happy with yourself in the first place. Take care of you. You've got to take care of you. If you have baggage, emotions, things that are stressing you out, things that are hurting you, then yes, you take the initiative to take care of you, rather than expect, your spouse to take care of you when they don't know what it is that's going on with you, what is hurting you, or what it is that you're constantly angry about. Sometimes you just find yourself just lashing out or talking to the other person and just being brushing them off or something. It's like, where is that coming from? Figure out where that's coming from and be able to take care of that. Be a person that can be dependable, that, if you're in a relationship, that means you're depending on each other. So be a person that you can stand by your word and say, you know what, I will stand by my wife, I will stand by my husband. I know the other day I had somebody that said they were coming. I'll be in Ohio on December, Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm going to be speaking at a conference, at a gathering there in December. And this gentleman says, oh, I heard you're coming to Cincinnati. Can I come and see you over there? And I said, no, you can't come and see me over in Cincinnati. If you bring your wife, you can come and see, the presentation. And the response was, what do you mean, bring my wife? I'm coming by myself. You see, with things like that there, to me, that is disrespectful for somebody to even just ask me to say, can I come and see you without my wife? What are you coming to an event that is a couple's event, that is empowerment event? Why can't you bring your spouse with you? Because those are times that you can connect and be in one place together and hear something positive, something motivating, something uplifting that can unite the two of you. So that's my encouragement to you when I say be dependable. When you fight, fight fair. Do not, women, I know you're famous for this, do not bring things that happened 20 years ago in your marriage and bring them to this fight of something that is happening the here and now. Deal with the issue that is going on at that moment. Do not bring in things that happened 20 years ago, especially if there were things that were resolved, or if it's something that your spouse didn't know about. That's not the time to bring it. Find another time to bring that issue and say, you know what, I know it's been 20 years, I never talked about it, but I really have been bothered still by this. It's okay for you to be bothered by something that happened 20 years ago. Just don't bring it in an instance where something is happening and we're talking about a different thing, and then you throw in that. That's not right. Be a person that also apologizes and means what say what you mean what you say when you apologize. But be a person that can apologize. I'm sorry is really an easy flowing thing when you really know that, you know what, this is a person that I want to see every day, that I have to see every day, live with every day. So my apology means we can be friends again, we can connect again, we can be together again. In fact, saying that, when was the last time that you guys just went out and just did something to laugh about and just relax, the two of you, to connect, where you look at each other in the eye and really sit across from each other in the table and just relax and connect and laugh again and get to wonder, you know what, I forget why I'm with you and I forget why I love you. When was the last time that you just did something like that to just connect with each other? Because what's happening is, being in countries like the United States, people are working and working all the time. And what happens is you only meet each other when it's fighting time or disagreement time, or the bills, we don't have enough money to pay the bills. That's when people start talking. Let's not wait for that. Let's make sure that you find time, make time to connect with each other again, and find time to go out, even if it's just for a walk. Just take each other's hand and just walk and get the breeze. That's something, that's spending time. You don't have to spend time, with each other all the time. I always give my couples this homework of going home and being able to spend pillow talk time, where they literally need to look at each other whilst they lay down on, by the pillow, look at each other and have pillow talk, where they're just talking, but literally staring and gazing at each other right in the eyes to look at each other. Because most of the time when you go to bed, what do? You go on the side, you go on the side. If there's, that night where the two of you unite for 2 minutes and boom, you sleep. Never even get to see each other's eyes and talk. Make that time and get, to look at each other. Keep your life balanced, especially if you have children, that you make time for you as well as for the children. Like I said earlier on, there's nothing as bad as children knowing that everything is about them, and then the parents get to be, resentful about spending that time because they're so overwhelmed and exhausted about, spending the time with the children. Having a relationship is a process. It's a life process. You committing to giving yourself, and the other person has also committed to giving themselves. Do not take each other for granted, men and women, because then when somebody commits to you and you commit to them, it's a lifelong process. That means there will be ups and downs, and there will be valleys, and there will be joys, there will be tears, but each day, each moment, is a day for you to fight for love. You're not fighting for yourself, but you're fighting for love. And if you commit to that, that will be the central thing that you always come back to. If I keep not talking to my spouse, if I keep talking to that other young lady outside and not being with my wife, is that fighting for love? Is that keeping that love that I have for my wife real? Because I don't understand it. If you're in love with somebody that's on the outside, why are you coming home? Why are you still coming in the house if you're not fully committed to being in the home? And that's a question that each person will have to ask themselves if they are the ones that are stepping out. Because what happens is, again, it brings out resentment that sometimes doesn't come out for you. It comes out on the children, and then here we go. We got some teenagers that are just so mean. So be yourself. Be yourself. Healthy relationships are made of real people. That will be my last point that I'll point with that. When you love yourself and you give the same love to your spouse, it's hard for you not to get that love back. It's hard for them not to know that you got their back. So when you take care of yourself and you can take care of your spouse, I think I can put a guarantee that you will be taken care of. There are many more, relationships that are going very well that we don't get to talk about, that we don't get to see. But I don't believe that every household is breaking apart. I don't believe that every relationship is breaking apart. And what we need to do is to continue to work on the relationship that you have, on the relationship that you want, or the relationship that you want to have. I know there was a gentleman that wanted me to talk about same-sex relationships. That's probably will have to be, a topic for another time, because I do work with a lot of couples that are same-sex, couples. I don't know if you wanted me to say, do I believe in them or don't believe in them? I'm one person that, I can't determine what's other people's lives can be like. But my thing is, as long as the people are happy and they come and they seek help, I help. I, provide the services that I'm supposed to provide to same-sex or heterosexual couples that we do. So with that said, I hope that, this has been very helpful. I know we're waiting for the results. I'm hoping that, by the time that I turn this off, I will see, some results. I live in Florida, so I'm praying that Florida doesn't disappoint. So thank you all for having been on this live tonight. Let's do it again. I do an empowerment, hour. every Tuesday. I'll be doing it from 8 to 9 p.m. So I look forward to, interacting with all of you. I'm also going to be, buying tools and making it possible to make sure that I can, have some of you be on the show with me so that we can, do this with some more interactions. With that said, be encouraged and encouraging. Until next Tuesday, we'll talk to you soon. God bless.